All right, let's do some examples where we're working in word form and standard form. And actually, I'm going to start all the way at the bottom first. I want to look at a few standard forms before we jump into the word form to standard form. So we just worked on this. We're going to work in our whole values, our whole number place values. So I've got 0 and I'm going to ignore everything. And I'm going to look at this guy as a whole number. That's 125. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So this is going to be 0 and, remember your decimal is and 125. So I say it just like a whole number, 125, and it's tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Let's do the next one together. I've got 109 out in front, whole number, 109. Let's go ahead and write that down. When I get to the decimal, I pronounce it as and. Let's look at this as a whole number, 79. Oops. Our last step is to figure out what place value that last number is sitting in, that last digit. So that's 79 tenths, hundredths. Let's look at the last example of standard form to word form. So let's start with our whole number. We've got 17. And I'm going to look at this as a whole number, all of those digits in the decimal place values, in decimal land I call it. This is 45. So let's write that down. 45. My last step is I need to figure out what place value is that last digit. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths. And it's really as simple as that. So let's look at some word form to standard form now. 1 and, remember, and is your decimal word. So if you want, you can go ahead and put a decimal under the word and, just to remind you that those will be your decimals. 1, well, that's just the number 1, and is my decimal. 2 tenths. So I like to underline where the tenths are. Wherever this place value is, I like to underline that place value so that I know that's how far out I'll be reaching. So 2 tenths will go right there. So that's 1 and 2, and this is in the tenths place value. Let's do another one. 3 and 43 hundredths. 3 and is a decimal. 43 hundredths. So I know I'm going to go to the hundredths. So tenths, hundredths. 43 hundredths. And the reason I like to do this is because there's going to be some tricky ones where you might need some zero placeholders and you might be shifting out really far. So I like to underline those place values that I know I'm reaching out to. 5 and... Okay, I know I'm going to go out to thousandths, 621 thousandths. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself some space here. So tenths, hundredths, thousandths. And I have 621 thousandths. 2 and 2 hundredths. Now this is one of those trickier situations here. 2 and, I know I'm dealing with hundredths. Tenths, hundredths. Give yourselves 2 spaces. I need to write down the number 2, and it needs to span out to the hundredths. So this is where we need a 0 in front of that 2, so that we have 2 in the hundredths place value. Because if your 2 is sitting here, that would be 2 tenths. We need the 2 in the hundredths spot. 6 and 73 thousandths. So that's 6 and I'm dealing with thousandths, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. 73, this 3 needs to be sitting in the thousandths place value. 73, we need to throw a 0 out in front. 90 and 12, ooh, 10 thousandths. We're really working our way out now. Okay, so 90, and let's go ahead and get ourselves out to the 10 thousandths. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10 thousandths. So I know I need to go 4 digits back, and I need the number 12. Really I need the 2 and 12 to be sitting in the 10 thousandth spot. 12, and then you put zeros out in front. 3,267 10 thousandths. Okay, so I didn't see the word and at all, which means I don't have a whole number in front of this. So this is purely just a decimal number. So my whole number is just 0. So that's 0 and 3,267 10 thousandths. That's my place value I need to reach out to. So let's go ahead. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10 thousandths, and I need the number 3,267. So I know that 7 needs to sit in the 10 thousandth spot. 67, 200, and let's just test. Let's see, if I just circle this number, if I ignore this, do I have that 3,267? Would that say 3,267? It absolutely does. And let's just test to make sure this is in the 10 thousandths place value. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10 thousandths.